to a special edition of Left Coast Live. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, America's Wasp, located remotely in somewhere in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains.
Hmm.
My co-host, as always, the one and only StatPat Stateless Patriot. StatPat, I know a lot's been weighing on your mind, a lot's been weighing on my mind. We should get into how the last couple of weeks have been because we took a couple of weeks off with the holidays and everything. But we got a lot to talk about today. How are you now feeling since they went through the January 6th operation yesterday, and now we got it's just formalities until the inauguration. So it's really happening. Like here we really go. We're going Trump round two.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a reminder of how, like, the holidays for me were just a great getaway from all the bullshit. And now that,
Yeah,
we're a week into the new year, we're, um, it's just a reminder of all the bullshit that we are anticipating, honestly. Everything that's about to come our way. Like it's real, it's happening, and of course Trump's making it a point to just let us know how hard he's going to make it for all of us.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and of course, like there's the MAGA Civil War and the stuff with Elon Musk, and there's the recent rally that Trump had this, or no, a press conference, more accurately, and God, I'm just so sick of him, and I cannot believe that this is going to be our reality once again, and it's going to be inaugurated on the
Yeah,
20th.
I
Yeah, yeah,
really I took the holidays as an opportunity to really enjoy, what's left
yeah,
of the positive momentum from the, you know, last 4 years of not having him in office and just kind
yeah.
of savoring it. So that's why I probably wasn't really more psyched to get back on the pod with you until now.
Right,
But and also there was a ton of really good football on.
right.
Or at least a lot of football that was supposed to be good. I went to the Rose Bowl,
Oh,
and which was a lot of fun. Yeah, I was with some Ohio State fans, and they just absolutely routed Oregon. So I don't know. Maybe we should take a minute to talk about the college football playoff and the culture of sports, because my perspective on this is evolving. I think that it's not just sports in America. Like when I brought this up on a conference call with a lot of other progressive people who are fans of a YouTube channel that's way bigger than ours.
hmm,
Um, they were like, "Yeah, totally. Like, it can be any sport. It could even be esports." I'm like thinking about it more. I'm like, in the moment, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay," but now I'm like, "No, it's got to be something having to do with your body." And I think if you actually evolve the idea even further, it's gotta be football.
hmm.
It's gotta be football because the stakes are so much higher because of the physical contact.
Yes.
And the quantity of content lends itself to a more casual sports fan since there's only one game a week.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I understand the value of esports and its popularity with more younger crowds and whatnot. Like Valorant tournaments and League of Legends, Fortnite, Overwatch, all these things. It's like, yeah, there's definitely value in it, and lend it does lend credence to that competitive nature that is lacking in politics of the left. But when it comes to like cultural impact, without a doubt, like football should be like it's a centerpiece. And looking at the more risky, like you said, it's more risky because of the physical contact, whereas like esports, that's not there, and it's not as it's not as like relatable to people because like you get personalities, star players, and that sort of thing. So yeah, football is definitely like the pinnacle when it comes to sports in general. Not to mention like just looking at competition as a whole. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think the risk of physical injury is really important, and it makes you watch more. It's like a car accident that you
yeah,
can't take your eye off of in some of these
yeah. And it's like
situations in the National Football League.
the ironic thing about that is like it has such there's such a truth behind it because NASCAR's numbers have been dwindling over the years, and
Mm.
that coincides with more restrictions, more regulations, making it more safer for everybody, changing the rules, and making it go in stages instead of like a full um, a round of laps. It's that um, the changing of the rules, making it more safer, that like making it less dangerous, to be more accurate. It definitely takes away from the, I guess, addicting factor about it. Like it's harder to get invested in that if there's less risk. So
It's also
like
people just don't. A lot of people just aren't into cars, and it's like everybody can respect the risk, as you say,
hmm
that all these athletes are taking by the physical contact that happens on every single play at the line of
right.
scrimmage. There's always hits on every play. Physical sports like lacrosse and hockey do have big hits,
hmm
but they're not nearly as regular. I mean,
Right.
there might be games when there's not even one big hit in either lacrosse in a lacrosse game. It's
Right.
rare, but yeah, there's soft teams and like it's just not as big of a part of the game. I mean, the play starts with the largest men on the field
hmm
doing battle. And I think it's kind of the last vestige of the Colosseum in Rome. And it's culturally, it's evolved. And right or wrong, spectacle is a huge part of society. And we should celebrate things. We shouldn't worship things, but we should celebrate things. And competition at its highest level manifests, in my opinion, in today's global society in the National Football League. It's
hmm
epitomized by professional football because the amount of money, the amount of development that goes into these players, and the relationship between college and pro. If you start following some of these players in college and then they become pros, and then if you're like Marvin Harrison, and then you see his kid come into the league. I mean, like, I'm old enough now where I'm seeing the kids of the stars that I grew up watching send their kids to the National Football League, which
Yeah.
is really freaking cool. Which is really cool. And that's like, we
Right.
should be proud of these guys. But, you know, I don't know if a lot of people think about this, but the most valuable form of celebrity is the professional athlete, the A-list professional athlete, to be specific. Obviously, if you're not an A-list athlete, you're not terribly valuable. But if you are an A-list athlete, then the world is your oyster, and everything you touch turns to gold, and you can move the needle in terms of how many people are watching. I'm talking about the Tom Brady's of the world, LeBron James. Back in the day, it would have been Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and obviously Michael Jordan. Those kinds of stars. And what would be cool is to like be able to use in political rhetoric, like if someone's campaigning and making a point like, are you Randy Moss or are you Jerry Rice? Right? Because Randy Moss was physically, not even arguably, the most naturally gifted athlete to ever play wide receiver in the National Football League. You tell me
Yeah.
if you disagree, but I think
He's definitely up
his
there.
natural speed, his height, and then the real thing that separated him was ability to jump.
hmm
And the thing that he worked on and always got better at was his hands. He
hmm
could catch anything by the end. Um, and so Randy was great, but he also didn't really take hits. That was the one thing, is like he didn't really He didn't really come over the middle and kind of welcome the safety to bring the hit. So that's kind of a certain kind of political athlete, like maybe the guy from Kentucky kind of fits that mold.
Andy Bashir.
What's his name? Andy Bashir, pedigreed, comes from political stock, if you
Yeah.
will,
Oh yeah.
kind of born to play the game in very much the same way that Randy was born to play that game. Randy would have been a very good basketball player, but come on, his straight line speed and then his jumping ability, like on top of that, and then throw in the hands, like, I mean, the guy had it all. So enough about Randy. So Andy Bashir is our Randy Moss right now. We'll throw in some more people as we go. The other wide receiver, who do you think I'm going to talk about as the comparative wide receiver?
I would say Gavin Newsom.
No, 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 no. Another wide receiver.
Oh, like actual.
Another,
Okay.
yeah,
I mean,
legendary.
you have to.
Most legend. Think who's the most legendary wide receiver in the National Football League ever?
You would have to throw Garcia.
No, Jerry Rice.
Rice. My bad.
Jerry
I got.
Garcia. You're thinking of the Grateful Dead.
Oops. Yeah. My bad.
Dead man. I have yet to discover
Yeah.
the Dead. You know what I've been
Jerry
getting
Rice.
into recently is back into is Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Of the big three, because I was like Beatles I respect, but I'm not like I never really
Not
like
as into
turn on the
them.
Beatles. Rolling Stones I think are great showmen and fun and trying to be edgy, but Led Zeppelin legit was edgy
No,
and
that's what always drew me to them as well. Like I grew up on them, and even revisiting them to this day, like
they're so good.
whether it's Led Zeppelin 2 or Houses of the Holy or fucking Physical Graffiti, there's just no shortage of good material. Yeah, and their edginess is what always like drove me to them because I'm really into music with edge and grit, and also just like good musicianship. Like they wrote a lot of really great, well composed songs as well.
Yeah, and it was kind of the golden era of music. I mean, it's a lot. Led Zeppelin's a lot of things. You could argue it's the next step in the evolution of that genre. And it
Hmm.
was kind of like, okay, we did it nice. We did the nice hand-holdy, happy stuff. Let's talk about. It's kind of more like, I mean, anyway, I don't know. I don't. It's more. It's like better sex.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good way to put it. No, yeah, probably. Yeah, there it really taps into that edge and that grittiness that
it's just the
remains
and
so
the
appealing to this
guys were
day.
so much so the pound for pound. But you should watch a documentary on them. Highly recommend watching a documentary on Led Zeppelin
Hmm.
origin and how it was kind of a talent based group. They just
Hmm.
the powers that be in the British rock and roll development system. They knew that Jimmy Page was a freak show. And they were like, okay, let's find him some other talent because it fell apart with the Yardbirds and whatever. And then they found Robert Plant, obviously, and then John Paul Jones, who could play anything, and then the drummer Bonnet, whatever
John
his name
Bonham.
is, John Bonham,
Yeah.
and and I saw that was I was gonna say like the best thing that the Obama administration ever did was deliver the Kennedy Honors tribute to Led Zeppelin, led by Jack Black.
No, of
if
course.
if
Yeah.
you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It was the probably the greatest Kennedy Honors you'll ever see. So that was Obama's greatest accomplishment as president, I think.
I'll have to check that out for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, way better than the bank bailout or whatever you want to call that settlement. When no
Yeah.
bankers went to jail for the 2008 housing crisis, and what a mess,
Right.
man. The
Yeah.
government just cleaning up everything. So, speaking of our soon-to-be government, Trump is
Hmm.
basically back into imperialism. We're going back in time, everybody.
God.
Everybody who wanted to go back in time to the good old days of American imperialism, here we go.
Here it
So
comes.
he wants to retake the Panama Canal. He wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico, which is that's probably just going to be like the I'm going to do this and then not invade you kind of thing because he knows that when Americans actually see our own troops like going to war, it
Yeah.
like we just don't like it. Like it, after 25 years in Afghanistan, and
Yeah.
I guess we're still in Iraq technically, right? I think we'll always be in Iraq. We have like military bases and their stuff. So
Right. It's like what is he expecting? Does he expect Denmark to put up troops to defend Greenland? It's like what
but you can't. There are
or
no natural resources in Greenland. There's no point in
oh no,
invading
there's a
Greenland. It's
lot.
one. It's
No, there's
it's one
actually a
big.
lot.
But you have to get through the ice sheet.
Oh yeah, and the coastlines actually have a whole lot in terms of resources as well. But like it like he it really is just all show because it's like, is he actually going to take military action against territory that's owned by Denmark? Is he actually going to take military action in Panama? And how exactly would that look like? He's always done this. He wants to make a big show, make a big deal about it, just to get like as a negotiating tactic. Uh, I
He's creating the circus. He wants to create the circus, and he wants to be the ringleader. Is
Of
basically how it goes.
course, of course, yeah, and ultimately, I think all Trump's showboatiness is just a distraction from the fact that like he can literally do whatever the fuck he wants now. He can say anything he wants. He can do anything he wants, even if he doesn't mean it. Even if he's just joking, if he's not serious, because ultimately it doesn't matter. He has the authority,
Yep.
according to the Supreme Court. So it's like, is this just a distraction from the fact that like U.S. debt is insane right now? The deficit so far for the fiscal year of 2025
It's going to get
is
even
beyond
worse.
insane. Yeah, like we can't pay back these debts. It's just getting worse and worse. We can't borrow more from other countries without interest rates going crazy, which is just going to lead to more and more inflation. So it really is just like bread and circus at this fucking point, and he's not even in office yet.
Yeah, and I keep thinking about RFK Jr. as Health and Human Services
Oh
Director.
yeah,
That's really
it's gonna
scary
be
to me.
it's gonna be great when bird flu
Like I've
starts
always
ravaging the
taken the
nation.
kind of I've always taken like the nutrition facts on boxes like for granted. And
Hmm.
now when he gets that job, I'm gonna have to start being like suspicious of food and whatever. I don't know. Gavin Newsom talks about protecting California, Trump proofing California.
Hmm.
We'll see. That sounds like he wants a fight, and then of course he's going to run in
Hmm.
2028.
Yeah, I mean the
Um,
least that fucking Newsom could do is lower the goddamn cost of living in this state. If we're supposed to be, if we're about to become the fourth largest economy in the world,
yeah, where's the wealth? Where's the spread the wealth, dude?
surpassing Germany, it's like you could at least make it easier to live here for crying out loud. Like Trump proofing California is one thing, but you, you have to have people standing but like behind you for one. If you want to take a fight to the government, if you want to like be the next in line, actually lift up Californians for crying out loud.
Well, we'll see. He's got his eyes on the next office, I think, at this point,
Yeah.
and just making sure he stands as tall as he can up to Trump for the next 2 years. That's going to be interesting. That might be like the internal political conflict. He's the only one who's going to have the balls to stand up to him. Like,
Hmm.
uh, you've got a guy I reacted to on Morning Joe the other day talking about what do you think, right?
Hmm.
Working with MAGA. Let's give it a chance. And
Right.
it's like, have you read Project 2025? Do you know that this is their agenda? To basically
Yeah.
deconstruct FDR democracy. I
Yeah.
mean, this is they're going after everything. Don't be surprised, man. You get Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That's all going to be vulnerable now.
Yeah.
Like the required, because that's usually how it works, right? That those three things are protected spending, and then
Hmm.
everything else is discretionary spending.
Right.
And that includes then the biggest piece of that is the military.
Yeah. It's gonna be such a mess. I'll have to send you a video that my excuse me. I'll have to send you a video that my dad sent me. It's from a channel that we both watch, but um, what's going to end up happening is Trump's going to want to obviously give a giant gift to
Yeah.
his billionaire buddies and the
Oh yeah.
multimillionaires by giving them maybe another tax cut. The problem is, government has been spending more than it's bringing in for years now.
Hmm.
And so if you're cutting off more tax revenue, that
Okay. Well, how are you going to make it up?
yeah,
The
exactly.
deficit's going to go even bigger. The
Yes,
deficit's going to get even bigger, and
we're
because
get,
they're going to grow the military,
yeah,
they always do,
and so we're gonna have to like
and
borrow more
and
money.
the demand on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is only going to get bigger.
Hmm.
The only thing big enough to like slice this freaking fat, whatever, you know, out of shape government that we have,
Hmm.
that's like to justify those kinds of tax cuts would be to take away Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid from a lot of people,
Yeah.
because that's the biggest sports. Just go look at the pie chart of our budget, and
Hmm.
you see that, wow,
Right.
if we just like, it would, and I don't know, maybe he's got
Yeah.
the
So
those are his voters is the problem. Those are a lot of
yeah.
that's his base.
Fortunately, though, from what I understand, there are a lot of senators on both sides that are
Would prevent
not.
that.
Yeah, they're not willing to even touch Social Security. So it would get
And
nowhere to like if like
I
they
don't know,
wanted to
man. Trump
actually
can lean on whoever. Trump likes to lean on people. He could lean on whoever he wants,
he would yeah, he would need to lean on a lot of people though, because like the amount of like people in both the House and the Senate that are vehemently opposed to like any cuts to Social Security, it would take more work than I think he would even bother uh, dealing
Yeah,
with.
there are not necessarily bigger fish to fry, but
Hmm.
tastier fish to fry for sure. And speaking of that, the mass deportations, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
going to be.
that's gonna be
We've
costly.
talked about it over. It's going to be. Oh my God! Talk about money. They talk about wanting smaller government. I'm like, you know what this is going to cost?
Right. It's like, I mean, on one hand, I don't
Like
know
you
if
could
you
give
saw
people
like,
health care for this instead of doing this.
dude, no kidding. Oh my god. And I think there is a chance that it won't go down in such a dramatic and widespread, massive scale way, because of the recent MAGA civil war. I don't think mass removal of immigrants here illegally would not only go over well, but the fact that like Trump actually sided with Elon Musk regarding this H-1B visa
H1B.
fee.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah, yeah. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, it's like Trump even admitted, like, yeah, I use H-1B visas on my properties, and I've utilized it before, and like lots of maggots just got super pissed about it. So
Right.
it's like they want to have their cake and eat it too. It's like what rhetoric are we sticking with here? Like, is it like who exactly is going to be targeted? Because like a lot of your base just wants absolutely no like immigrants coming in at all. They would just want completely closed borders and all that. So it's like, like he has to like make an awkward balancing act between the cheap labor that his donors want, and obviously Elon Musk is in favor of, and the base that is just like, no, we should just like America everything, like no immigration, closed borders, this and that. It's
Okay, so it's interesting. This could go. I mean, this could go a number of different ways.
of
It would
course
be pretentious to think that we know exactly what's going to happen
right.
and make some sort of be like, oh, this is the way it's going to go down. If it goes down that way, you just get lucky because there's so many different ways it could go.
Hmm.
But one thing is, he's never married to a position. He's demonstrated in the past that he can change on a dime. If he gets into office and he gets heat from his base, to go through with these mass deportations, or they pick out H-1B visas as their issue, and he forces them to choose between them and his technocrat buddies, then I think Trump will eventually choose the people. I think he wants the ratings and he wants the brand. And also, too, like, he's not going to run in 4 years. That is something I
Yeah,
am convinced of. He doesn't like being president. He likes running for president.
yeah,
I know, and now a lot of people, when they hear that, were probably like, well, it's impossible for him to run again. Yeah, I know, but he also has unprecedented power
hmm,
and might be able to somehow say, oh, well, it wasn't 2 terms in a row, so it doesn't count, something like that, and run anyway. But the point is that he could, once he's in office. I think the priority is maybe going to be the tax cut now, not the deep mass deportations.
yeah,
Um, and then, if this is just speculation, if our intuition would lead us to believe that local law enforcement and state funded resources would be required to execute mass deportations, then I think you're looking at Texas as kind of like the first battleground, and
hmm.
like that's where we see the carnage.
States like
And I
that,
think
yeah,
and then maybe Arizona, but probably not. Um,
hmm,
California is going to be the last one.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think if carnage is to happen, it'll start in Texas,
right.
because that is very anti-immigrant down there.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
even the second and third generation immigrants,
yeah.
they're voting, Republican now, man.
No, of course, yeah. Um, I mean, what it comes down to is Trump ultimately doesn't want to have to explain to his base why he made certain decisions. He doesn't want to have to justify unpopular moves by his administration. So when it comes to like enacting, I guess like a just something that the base doesn't agree with, like he's never been comfortable being on the back foot. Like he'll of course be able to like talk his talk and whatnot, but like he doesn't want to be in that uncomfortable position when it comes down to it. If there's something that he wants to get that his donors want him to get done,
But he
he
doesn't care. He might not care about his donors, is my point.
That's yeah. No, you're right. You're right. He might not go along with them because he doesn't want to have to. Because he's the speaker. He's the guy who communicates
It's
to his
him
base.
now. It's on him now. He gets
Yeah,
to do
it's
whatever he
on
wants
him.
now.
Right. So he doesn't want to be the fall guy. He doesn't want to take the blame for like what his people keep on pushing him to get through or pass. He wants to be able to like play it up and play it up as this big successful great thing that everybody loves. And if like he sees something that he can't get away with describing that as, he's not going to go through with it, I don't think.
Well, his unpredictability is his defining quality, right?
Damn
Except
straight.
if you've been studying him since he really got into politics, you notice that his behavior is actually pretty predictable. But this MAGA civil war, that I think you know a little bit more about than I do, seems to be a potential problem for him
Yes.
with priorities, because I think they're
Right.
smart enough to know, the technocrats, that the first 18 months are really all that matter. So January of 2025 to July 4th, really, of 2026, because then you get into the midterms. Like, that's
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
the time, because he's going to lose in the midterms. Things are going to get bad. He's
Yeah.
going to lose power in the midterms.
Yeah. Because
Um,
by then, like, if inflation's gonna be skyrocketing at that point,
yeah, if he does pass the tariffs, the prices of goods are going to go way up.
I mean, even
People are
with
going to get squeezed even more.
even without tariffs, because with the budget that even the current trajectory for this fiscal year, the deficit's like it's projected to just balloon.
Hmm.
So that would mean, of course, that the government is going to need to borrow more money, and that would mean higher interest rates on the
Right.
money that they borrow because they're borrowing more than
More.
they're spending more than they're borrowing, and that means that inflation is just going to go up. It's just
Everything's going to be more expensive.
everything's gonna be more expensive because the fucking U.S. government won't pay off their goddamn debts. They won't lower the deficit, and Trump's not going to make that any better. And that's if anything, that is like one of the biggest reasons why he should have lost is because. Like you can't run a government like a business. Trump doesn't even pay his own fucking bills. Like
Right.
he's notoriously known for
Yes.
like stiffing people.
Stiffing. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. He owes a lot of people money. He's gone bankrupt several times. He's had several
Six.
failed businesses.
Yeah.
Like, what makes people think that this guy is fiscally responsible in any way?
That's not why they
His
voted. I
lawsuit.
mean, I mean
Well, of
that's not why they
course,
voted
no,
for him.
of
I mean, people don't
course.
vote. People don't vote on. People vote on inflation, but they don't
I s-
vote on why inflation, how inflation actually works, because they don't know.
I see memes.
Like they don't even know tariffs. Like never underestimate the stupidity and ignorance of the average American.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just sad. It's just really sad.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not even, and I hesitate to call it's to use the word stupidity. I always talk about in one of my essays, like there's 9 different forms of intelligence. So if you want to get precise with the kind of stupidity that John Stuart Mill talks about when he says that not all stupid people are conservative, but all conservatives are stupid,
Yeah.
it has to do with existential IQ. They don't think about why they're here and what would be cool about life, like if they tried new things and explored the country and introduced themselves to people who aren't just like them and into the same things that they're into.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to find this common ground with sports culture because it's so central to American society.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I can get off on that tangent in any excuse. Um, take it away.
No. Yeah. So he, he either way, um, the trajectory that this country's been on for a while now, it didn't it didn't exactly matter who was going to win this election, so to speak. This has been a problem that's been mounting for years and years, and Trump's first term only exacerbated it, like the deficit and the debt and whatnot. And with Kamala Harris winning, we could have probably seen some alleviation, and
Yeah,
the taxes would have at least more or less stayed the same. But Trump wanting to do more favors for the rich, it's all going to come to a head sooner or later, and it's not going to be pretty. Um, there people unironically sharing these memes that say like January 20th, 2025, get ready for dollar a gallon gas and dollar eggs per dozen. It's like, are they sharing these unironically, or like do they actually believe that? Like how
it's gonna be like an alcoholic going through a relapse.
yeah.
Really, I mean that's what this is. We're addicted to ignorance. We're
No.
addicted to these self-fulfilling prophecies of government failing us, gutting
Yeah.
government, expecting it to do better because we take out the parts that are important for lifting up the bottommost people. I mean, the wealth gap and income inequality. Most people don't know that those are two different things. The wealth gap and income inequality. How income inequality is just the amount of money you're making that year, whereas the wealth gap is actually accumulated wealth, investments. Some people like to discern the two as federal income taxes versus capital gains taxes.
Hmm.
So that's always the easiest way to evaluate the society and to how
Hmm.
well it's doing is to make sure that, okay, it's not about everybody having an equal piece of the pie. It's about having everybody have enough to survive,
Hmm.
and in a modern society, it should be enough to survive and go on 2 to 6 weeks worth of vacation every year.
Yeah.
Like depending on how much you love your work. I mean, that's one thing I've advocated for in my writing, but not really in my essays yet, is like modernizing education. Something the Europeans do really well is they get their students to commit to an intellectual space earlier in their life than we do here.
Yeah.
And what we can do now, even modern, taking that idea even to another level, is we can do personality tests at sophomore year in high school, maybe as early as freshman year in high school for students who really are into school, and figure out like, hey, here's 3 to 5 career paths that you could pursue and probably succeed at if you commit to right now.
Hmm.
And or here, if you follow this playbook for what the next 3 to 5 years of developing that career would look like. I mean, wouldn't
Yeah.
that be great? And you can include things like lifestyle, like where do you want to live, and how many kids do you want to have. Like put in all, if you want to use AI for something, instead of using it for predicting consumer behavior, why
Hmm.
don't you use it for predicting life trajectories
Yeah.
based on what we know about students' interests and personalities when they're a few years out of puberty. Because that's when it happens, man. When you're 17, 18, 19, like ground in you. I mean, it was 9/11 for me when I was 18.
Hmm.
Little did I know that 9/11 would set in motion um, or really catalyze and make more obvious problems that were already there. But the drama of that day, the trauma, it wasn't just drama, it was trauma for people who were watching on TV. It really was. To see live that second plane go into the damn building was
Hmm.
absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And to be old enough to, be aware of the world's problems, watching the nightly news since I was 7 years old. So it's it's interesting for our generation to just be rocked by like we have it pretty good in the United States based on a lot of other parts of the world,
Hmm.
but based on how much money we have, things here should be a lot better.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
based on how amazing they are for the super rich. I
Hmm.
mean, dude, these celebrities, the way that they live, like, but even them, that's just the superficial wealth. The real wealth is like the old money, like the industrial wealth and the trusts that we don't even know about, that we
Hmm.
talked about and like that we kind of touched on in those wealth videos that we covered a while back.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whose approval matters more to Trump. Is it the
Yes.
new kids on the block of the technocrats like Elon and Vivek, or is it the old guard evangelical, how I describe them, Confederate flag
Hmm.
waving, Bible beating gun nuts? Are they more
Yeah.
important to him?
Yeah.
And since he was a kid, if you're going to go just fundamentals, Larry Bird this bitch, as I say, then you got to go with the fact that he came from Queens, had money because his father was a slumlord, which was a dirty business.
Hmm.
So everybody in New York knew he had money, but they knew he also had no class.
Yeah.
So I think he's been trying to compensate for that by accumulating fame and now with politics power. And so, what does he want? I just wonder if someone's going
He.
to get in his ear and say, what do you want to be remembered as? Because that's what these next 18 months are going to define you as an
Yeah.
actual president. Like, you got a second chance, man. Like,
Hmm.
are you kidding me? This is the opportunity of a lifetime for any
Hmm.
politician.
Yeah. A problem that he's definitely going to have to face multiple times throughout the next few years is who does he want to appease the most, and how is he going to appease as many people as possible? Because either way, he's going to be stepping on some toes. There
Yeah.
is mass disagreement among the far right now. The people who champion Trump, the people who are on Twitter 18 hours a day, just spewing all sorts of garbage. They are going to try to steer him and just steer the country like they have been in every which way possible. Like that is more akin to their beliefs, and that's going to conflict with what's feasible, what's workable, what's realistic, what is good PR and what isn't. And for one man to reconcile with this, it's going to be nearly impossible. And
Yeah.
he's definitely not going to be the only one that's pulling the strings. He's going to have people around him that are going to have a lot of power, and he like we said at the beginning of the stream, he's just going to be the showman. He's going to be the fall guy. He's going to be the
Right.
one who plays everything up, no matter what it is.
Well, he's just going to talk about the border while the real powers that be behind the scenes duke it out. The problem
Hmm.
is there's no Mitch McConnell this time, so we don't know what the legislation's
Unfortunately,
actually going to look like.
yeah,
It's not as
yeah.
predictable.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, there's a special place in hell for Mitch McConnell for
Yeah.
as decrepit as a motherfucker he is, but at least he did keep a lot of the more fringe tendencies of the Republican Party in check, and that also includes Trump. So hopefully someone hopefully there will be a McConnell faction of sorts to
I think there will be. He made
reel
sure
in
he
the
will
wor-
have made sure of it. That guy
yeah,
cares about his
of
legacy.
course,
Yeah.
just to reel in the worst aspects of not to mention the impulses of Trump and his cultist Trumpist figures as well. Like,
He's such a goon, man. How like it's like I don't, I know you're an atheist, but I say this and I think it's funny anyways. Like
mm,
in certain, I don't like to judge people on their looks like at all, but in the case of like Ben Shapiro, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, and who were we just talking about?
uh, Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Hmm.
These are ugly on the outside, ugly on the inside people.
Yeah,
God is telling you that these are evil people just by the way they look.
yeah, yeah,
Mitch McConnell, Ben Shapiro, Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Josh Hawley
yeah.
even. Josh Hawley's like,
Oh
oh, he's
yeah.
not such a bad looking guy. Look a little harder. He looks like evil. You
No,
know.
yeah, no, of course. Yeah, I mean,
I can't stand that guy. He's such a bad actor. I see
yeah,
he gets a lot of
leeway.
time on TV. He gets
Yeah,
a lot of face time on TV.
yeah,
Yeah, the
it
Republicans are
doesn't
pushing him. Yeah, I wouldn't be
doesn't deserve.
surprised if he becomes the nominee and or what it runs in 4 years. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised at all.
right. Yeah, I mean,
These guys are goons, man.
they really
I'm sick
are.
of people think how do I mean, I always get caught up in like, you know, how I get caught up in it too. This MSNBC, like, how could people support Trump like how it was before he won re-election? But like, how could people be so stupid, right? I mean, I did a whole essay
Hmm.
on like reacting to that idea. Like, okay, get real. These people exist, and here's why. But it's
Yeah,
still an intellectual deconstruction. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I
yeah,
brushed up against these people, and maybe I was near a lot of them at the Rose Bowl.
hmm,
But they exist, and they really do think this way. They really do think America is a meritocracy, and if you just work hard, you'll become a multimillionaire. And they don't give a fuck about the problems that they don't personally experience. Out of sight, out of mind.
hmm,
And they all watch Fox News, so they're not seeing any of the real stuff. They're just seeing the bullshit DC drama,
yeah,
and that allows them to off the hook. So it kind of my point is that it takes for us, people like us, it will always take a repeated leap of faith to kind of get there intellectually with like, yes, these people really do exist. They really are this fear driven. They really are this into scapegoat politics because their lives are fucking miserable. Like for the
Yeah.
most part, they might feel like they're happy. Maybe they're financially well off. Maybe they have good kids, whatever.
Yeah.
But trust me, like a lot of them, they
They're just
know that.
constantly chasing a dopamine high. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
that's all it comes
It's
down
like
to.
maybe they get moments of joy, but they never really find true happiness because true happiness comes from
Contentment.
a certain amount of peace, right? A certain
Hmm.
amount of like
Oh
peace with the
yeah.
world, and that's
Yeah.
why there was
Never
that
at
great
peace.
video from Heroes where you have to choose between a life of happiness or a life of purpose, because a life of happiness is always means being in the present,
Hmm.
and life of purpose, you're worried about the future and you're trying to learn from the past to make sure the future is better than the past. Because if you look at the past, for the most part, it has sucked for most people.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. A lot of people who aren't into politics don't want to talk about politics because it means coming to terms with history. That's another thing that drives me nuts, and maybe you'll have something to say about this one. Is that this cliche of let's move forward? Elections are about the future. Politics are about the future. My point to that is you have to reconcile the past before you can create a better future. It's not so different as what we talk about with winners and losers and learning from losses. I
Hmm.
mean, learning from mistakes, evolving. This isn't Darwinism. This is just evolution. This is just adapting to the world that is as changed. And
Yeah.
there we are again, right? You don't get change in America by asking nicely. And I think that this MAGA civil war is maybe about the people that want to return the real make America great again, like racists and whatever, and then the other ones that want to like have big change in the form of like institutional um, changes,
Yeah.
you know, bigger things than we've ever even thought of. Like they're going to
Yes.
actually be creative with their level of destruction.
That's actually a really good way to look at it because those Elon Musk types, those and of course his simps, the Vivek Ramaswamy's, they're definitely looking more towards the future and actually have a more uh, they have a better grasp on what it could and should look like, even if it's not for the better. I mean, because with the advent of better technology and whatnot, and then of course you do have those traditionalists that are at odds with all that, like the big
Right.
changes, like they just want to
They
keep
want
it, keep it
recessive change. They want recessive
exactly,
change.
exactly.
Yep.
Recession, keep everything as it is. Don't go like just
Well,
put
look,
like
it's like abortion's the perfect example of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I think that's what you're going to get down to is slicing and dicing policy.
uh
They'll be like,
huh,
okay, you got abortion, now we get this. I mean, honestly, if you give the evangelicals the judges, then they'll be happy. They
yeah,
don't care about anything other than the judges, really. And then
yeah.
he's going to give the corporations and the donors a tax cut. Once he does that, they don't really have a right to complain about anything. Like they
No,
got a
yeah.
return on their investment.
That's pretty much the only thing that actually fucking matters. Like here, like going from here on out is like where the money's
Right.
going, and how the money is being moved around. That's the only fight that should matter to anybody who even remotely engaged in politics. But the problem is Trump's just going to just muddy the waters and just fill the media with just bullshit by making people fight about, oh, should we change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, or hey, what about buying Greenland from Denmark, just to get people fucking at each other's throats rather than paying attention to where the fuck all the money's going and the fact that they're getting broker and everything's getting more
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, about 50 minutes here.
Yeah, I mean that's
You
pretty
know,
much it for me.
yeah, I'm good. I mean, I want to get back to enjoying the mountain country,
Yeah,
but
fucking
it's good. I'm glad we reconnected because
of
it's
course.
nice up here, man. I love being up here, but
I bet.
it's just like we need to do things to preserve these types of places, you know.
I heard that
And
it just up there actually just got a shitload of snow, didn't it?
no, not here.
No.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, not where I am. But the East Coast has been getting crushed. I know the guys, the
Yeah.
Vanguard guys in Kansas City, have just been through,
Yeah.
hell in the form of a snowstorm.
There's like a whole
Um,
big snowstorm like moving south throughout the states and whatnot. It's crazy.
um, well, on that note, I think we should probably call it a night because
Sure.
I'm not feeling too inspired to talk about anything more than what we already have. I
Of
mean, it's the
course.
same old shit, different day.
Hmm.
So I do have my Kamala essay coming out on why she lost, the definitive explanation, so that we can
Hmm.
kind of put that in stone and
Sweet.
use it as a premise to advocate for serious institutional change within the Democratic Party. I think one of the maybe we should touch on this real quick because we did have generational change on last time, and they seem to be pretty close, if not. I mean, Jen in particular is like third party,
Hmm.
is like, and Pete seemed pretty much there too. He's still a registered Democrat, but and then I see Josiah from Pondering Politics talking with the Vanguard guys, and he is unapologetically like a pragmatist about it
Hmm.
and recognize that it is a duopoly, whether you like it or not. And he's with me, where I'm like the Democratic Party is the only big and established thing that can beat the Republican Party.
Hmm.
And I don't know. It's going to take so much work
Hmm.
and really just a freak show leader to unite the left because we've got fractionalization all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think it might be when I'm in my 50s is when we finally wake up again.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's wild. But
It's gonna
yeah, I
be a
mean, where are
while.
you? Where are you on that? I mean, are you kind of a Democratic Party internalist? I guess is what you would call it, insurrectionist.
I do recognize that is definitely the biggest vehicle for progressive change, at least potential progressive change. Um, unless first past the post voting gets abolished and we get a more of like a first um, what's ranked choice
Yeah,
voting
right.
gets more implemented. Then nothing's really going to change about the way that elections are currently handled. And not to mention the Citizens United thing, changing the way that elections are funded.
Yes.
Um, there's just if first past the post voting is getting rid is just done away with, that does welcome more strength in third parties. But the way that the government's set up is like you're just factionalizing the Democratic base,
Right.
basically. So it's tough to reconcile with. Like that's what it comes down to for me. But lesser of two evils is my my modus operandi.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I just wish
it's
we could. I wish we could. I wish I could penetrate the institutional infrastructure of the Democratic Party. They just don't
yeah,
want constructive criticism
no,
from younger generations. Not even, I mean, I'm about to be 41. Like, I deserve to be listened to, man.
yeah,
Like, as soon no one can fuck with you intellectually when once you're in your 40s.
yeah,
Like, 20s, obviously people can, but you're just in your 20s, 30s even, that kind of laugh. Once you're in your 40s, you're like, come on, man. Like, you've been around for a while, you know some things. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And for me to struggle so much to get into the Democratic Party machine and be able to connect with the powers that be about the cultural changes that need to be made.
yeah,
Because that's something I haven't talked about, but I've been working on a lot, and it's been frustrating, man. No one really wants to listen to a competitor. Oh no,
yeah.
did I
You,
lose? You still got me on audio?
I still got you in the audio, but your screen did go black.
Yeah, no, no, no.
Yeah, I totally, I totally feel what you mean. Like I can't believe I'm turning 30 this year. It's like, it's that age where it's like, wow, I feel like my youth is just like entirely behind me, and that's hard to reconcile with. But also, there's a bit more legitimacy to, I guess, who I am. I don't know. It's a weird limbo, I guess you could say, because I don't. It's like my youth is fleeting every single day, and it's hard to Like it's not
Well, I think
going to come back
I
to
might
this
be a
day.
valuable I might be a valuable relationship for you on that one because
Okay.
I can just tell you what it's like to be, 10 years your senior and just
Hmm.
you're good, man. You're in good shape. You're doing
Cool.
just fine. And
Excellent.
you'll be in a much better position, I think, when a real opportunity comes because I
Hmm.
like to think I always keep kidding that this is the lesson of my 40s maybe is that I kept thinking that we're only 4 years away whenever an election happens.
Hmm.
Like, oh, we'll get it. Progressives will have a chance in the next 4 years. And it's like, no, it's probably going to be 12 years,
Yeah.
something like that, before progressivism really has a chance. Things are going to have to continue to get worse. Democratic Party neoliberalism is going to have to continue to be exposed. It just hasn't been
Absolutely.
exposed enough.
No,
It
of
just
course.
hasn't been exposed enough.
Exactly.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, people have not recognized like coming to terms and what may I'm going to do we should talk about this at some point, maybe a little homework assignment is coming to terms with Obama as president
Yeah.
because my whole advocacy with the DNC is clean house on administrative lines as well, like no more Clinton, Obama, or Biden people, and no more baby boomers. So
Hmm.
that's those the new, and that's might be a tall order because I think Obama people are pretty well liked,
Yeah.
and Biden people are now probably pretty well liked, but not the Biden people that worked on Kamala's campaign. Those people should be
Right.
exiled. Here's the thing: they're not going to be. They're not going to be exiled.
I
They're going to be
do.
hired again.
Yeah, I do really want it to be known. I want it to be out there in the ether, like as broad reaching and as loud as possible that Barack Obama's multiple huge shortcomings as president led to the necessity of Donald Trump. It let maybe not necessity, but allowed someone like him to not only come within the reach of power, but to actually obtain it.
The opportunity for someone like Trump to win, right?
Yes, that would
Bunch
not
of
it would not have been possible if not for a lot of big mistakes and failures under the Obama administration. That needs to be relayed to
let's
way
talk.
more people than currently.
Let's do some off camera talking about that and lay that out because that's a very delicate conversation that
Of
I need to
course.
start having with people, and maybe this would be a good place to kind of workshop that.
Of course.
Because it's a tough one. All right. Well,
Yeah,
for
works for
Stat
me.
Pat Stateless Patriot, I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
Everybody have a
Thanks,
good night.
y'all.
Thank you.